A heart-pounding chase through a cursed Romanian convent unveils a shocking conspiracy to birth the child of the church. Will justice triumph? Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for our latest thrilling tales. Don't miss what's next. Father Andrei's boots slammed into the frozen earth, each desperate stride kicking up clumps of frost as he tore through the Romanian forest, the midnight fog swallowing him whole. The camera tape, clutched in his blood-slick fist, was a ticking bomber, fragile proof of a conspiracy that could topple the convent's facade. Behind him, masked mercenaries moved like wolves, their silenced pistols glinting, their coded radios crackling with orders to kill. Branches slashed his face, shredding his cassock, but stopping meant a bullet in his back. The tape's footage haunted him. 3 nuns, missing since 1980, entering a hidden crypt beneath the altar, their habits stained with blood, faces pale with terror. His lungs burned, a sharp pain stabbing his ribs, but the truth was worth his life. The tape had shown a sterile lab, not a crypt, with a red hashtag symbol etched on a steel door, and in its final frame, the nuns pregnant, eyes vacant stood amid medical equipment, a syringe glowing on a tray. A silenced shot zipped past, splintering a tree. Andrei Dove, crashing into a ravine, mud and thorns tearing his skin. The tape slipped, tumbling into the underbrush. "No," he gasped, clawing through dirt, fingers scraping roots until he grasped it. Its case cracked but intact. Radios buzzed closer, boots crunching frost. He staggered upright, only to freeze mercenary loomed, faceless behind a tactical mask, aiming a pistol. "Drop it," the man barked, voice cold as steel. Andrei's hand clutched his cross, a futile gesture against this machine of death. He dodged as the gun fired, the bullet grazing his shoulder, blood soaking his sleeve. He sprinted toward a frozen stream, its icy surface glinting under moonlight. His foot broke through, cold water flooding his boots, shocking his system. The tape was still in his fist, his only leverage. The mercenaries fanned out, their laser sights dancing across the ice. He recalled the tape's final sounder woman's voice, trembling, "The child of the church is a lie." Andrei dragged himself from the stream, cassock heavy with ice, his body screaming. A hunter's cabin emerged through the fog, its silhouette a faint hope. He stumbled inside, slamming the door, shoving a rotting table against it. The radios went silent, replaced by an eerie stillness. His hands shook as he found a dust-covered VCR, its wires frayed but functional. The tape whirred, the screen flickering with a sterile lab, the nuns strapped to tables, and that hashtag symbol glowing on a monitor. A scream human, desperate to cut through, then silence as the screen died. The cabin's door shuddered, a breaching charge glowing red. Andrei seized a rusted axe, its weight grounding him. The door exploded inward, 3 mercenaries storming in, knives and pistols drawn. Andrei swung, the axe smashing a gun from a hand, metal clattering. "You can't bury this," he roared, kicking one man into a wall. Another lunged, a knife slicing his forearm, blood pooling. Pain blurred his vision, but he swung again, the axe grazing a vest, sparking. The third mercenary drew a stun baton, its crackle filling the air. Andrei ducked, the baton smashing a shelf, books tumbling. He grabbed a broken chair leg, hurling it at the man's face, buying time to dive behind a crate. The baton swung again, splintering wood. Andrei rolled, axe in hand, and hacked at the mercenary's leg, dropping him with a scream. The others regrouped, knives flashing. He scrambled to the VCR, yanking the tape free, and bolted for a back window, smashing it with the axe. Glass cut his hands as he climbed through, landing in snow. The mercenaries were already outside, radios barking. Andrei sprinted, dodging a bullet that embedded in a tree. His blood trailed, but the tape was tucked inside his cassock. A ravine loomed, its edge crumbling. He leaped, barely clearing it, sliding down, rocks tearing his knees. The mercenaries followed, their lasers cutting the fog. He spotted a rusted cellar door in the ground. Prying it open, hinges screaming, he dropped inside, pulling it shut. Darkness swallowed him, the air thick with mold. His lighter flickered, revealing crates and cobwebs. The tape was intact, its secret safe. Footsteps crunched above, radios crackling. Andrei's resolve burned brighter than his pain. Whatever those nuns had suffered, whatever the lab concealed, He'd expose Itter die trying. The cellar door rattled, a knife scraping its edge. Andre gripped the axe, blood dripping, ready for the next fight. The truth his only weapon. Father Andre crouched in the mold-choked cellar, his breath shallow, the axe slick with his own blood. The camera tape, tucked inside his torn cassock, pressed against his chest like a second heartbeat. Above, the mercenaries' boots crunched, their radios spitting static, but the cellar door held for now. His lighter flickered, casting jagged shadows across crates stamped with faded medical insignias, their contents long abandoned. The tape's images gnawed at him. 3 nuns, missing since 1980, strapped to tables in a sterile lab beneath the convent. Their pregnancies no miracle but a calculated experiment. The red hashtag symbol on that monitor wasn't a cult's market, was a corporate logo, tied to a shadow organization Andre had yet to name. His shoulder throbbed where the bullet had grazed, and his forearm stung from the knife wound, but pain was a distant concern. The truth was closer, and he'd claw it out of this nightmare. The cellar door rattled, a muffled curse filtering through. Andre killed the lighter, plunging into darkness, and edged toward a crate, his fingers tracing its splintered edge. Inside, he found a dusty journal, its pages brittle but legible. It belonged to Sister Clara, one of the missing nuns. Her handwriting trembled. They took us at night, injections, tests. They said we'd birth the future, but it's not God's work. The hashtag is their brand. Andre's pulse quickened. Clara's words were a map to the horror proof the nuns weren't victims of chance but of a meticulous plan. A metallic clank echoed above. The mercenaries were prying the door. He stuffed the journal into his cassock, next to the tape, and scanned for an exit. A rusted grate in the wall, barely wide enough, led to an air shaft. He wedged the axe into the grate's bolts, prying until they snapped, the noise deafening in the silence. The door buckled, a breaching charge glowing. Andre crawled into the shaft, its walls slimy, the air thick with decay. The charge detonated, shaking the tunnel, dust choking his lungs. He crawled faster, the axe dragging behind, until the shaft opened into a drainage ditch outside the forest. He tumbled out, mud soaking his wounds, and sprinted toward the convent's distant spires, visible through the thinning fog. The mercenaries' radios crackled behind, their pursuit relentless. Andre's only lead was Sister Maria, the last surviving nun, now living in a nearby village under a false name. She'd been silent since 1982, but Clara's journal mentioned her defiances she'd tried to burn the lab. If anyone knew the organization's reach, it was her. The village was a cluster of stone cottages, their windows dark as dawn crept in. Andre slipped into an alley, his cassock drawing stares from early risers. Maria's house was unmarked, its door bolted. He knocked, whispering her old name, "Sister Maria, it's about Clara." The door cracked, revealing a woman with haunted eyes, her face scarred from burns. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed, but Andre shoved the journal at her. "They're still hunting. I have the tape." Her hands shook as she took it, her voice low. "The hashtag group, they're not just doctors, they're everywhere. Politicians, clergy, corporations." Before she could say more, a black van screeched into the street, its doors sliding open. 4 mercenaries spilled out, armed with tasers and batons. Andre grabbed Maria, pulling her through the house to a back door. They burst into a yard, vaulting a low fence as tasers fired, their prongs sparking in the dirt. Maria led him to a barn, its loft packed with hay. They hid, her whispers urgent. "They used us to test gene editing. The children were their goal perfect, controllable, but something went wrong." A mercenary kicked the barn door open, flashlight beams slicing the dark. Andre gripped the axe, ready to fight, but Maria pointed to a trap door under the hay. They dropped into a root cellar, its walls lined with old medical files stolen from the lab. The mercenaries' boots thumped above, searching. Andre flipped through the files, finding names, dates, and a chilling detail. The hashtag group had funded the convent's restoration in 1979, a cover for their experiments. A beam of light hit the trapdoor. Andre braced, axe raised as it creaked open, a mercenary's silhouette looming. Maria threw a file, distracting him, and Andre swung, the axe cracking the man's baton. They scrambled out, running for the village square, where dawn's light offered no safety. The van roared behind, its engine a death knell. Andre knew the tape and journal were enough to start a fire, but exposing the truth would take more than proof. It would take blood. Father Andre's boots skidded across the slick cobblestones of the village square, his blood-soaked cassock flapping like a tattered flag as he hauled Sister Maria behind him, her scarred hand gripping his arm. The black van screeched around a corner, its tires burning rubber, mercenaries leaping out with tasers crackling and batons gleaming under the dawn's pale light. The camera tape, Clara's journal, and now a stolen medical file, all stuffed inside Andre's torn sleeve, were a death warrant if caught. Proof of the hashtag group's atrocities, a shadow organization that had twisted the convent into a genetic laboratory. Maria stumbled, her breath ragged, her burn-scarred face drained of color from years of hiding. "The crypt," she panted, her eyes flicking toward the convent's Gothic spires piercing the fog. "We have to see it ourselves." Andre nodded, his forearm throbbing where a knife had sliced, his shoulder stinging from a bullet's graze. But pain was fuel now. The mercenaries fanned out, sealing the square, their radios spitting coded orders. Andre yanked Maria into a shadowed alley, dodging a taser prong that sparked against a brick wall, the electric hiss too close. They sprinted through a butcher's yard, vaulting crates of bones, the air thick with the coppery reek of blood. A mercenary lunged from a side door, baton swinging, but Andre drove his shoulder into the man's chest, slamming him against a meat hook that clanged against the wall. The mercenary crumpled, but shouts rang out. More were closing in. Andre grabbed a cleaver from a table, its blade dull but heavy, and they bolted onto a dirt path toward the convent, its arches looming like the jaws of a beast. The main gate was chained, but Maria pointed to a side entrance buried in ivy, its lock rusted. Andre smashed it with the cleaver, the metal snapping, and they slipped inside, the convent's halls swallowing them in silence. Dust motes danced in fractured light from stained glass windows, depicting saints who seemed to watch with pity. Their footsteps echoed as they reached the altar, its stone cold and unyielding. Maria dropped to her knees, her fingers tracing a hidden seam. "Here," she whispered, pressing hard. A low mechanical grind rumbled, and the altar slid back, revealing a steel trapdoor etched with the hashtag logo, its lines precise, corporate, chilling. Andre's stomach twisted. This was no sacred crypt, but a portal to a scientific nightmare. He wedged the cleaver into the trapdoor's edge, prying until it groaned open, releasing a sterile chemical stench that stung his eyes. A steel ladder descended into darkness, its rungs slick with condensation. Maria hesitated, her burns a living memory of her last encounter here, but Andre gripped her shoulder. "We end this together." They climbed down, the ladder creaking, the air growing colder, heavier. The chamber below was no tomb but a high-tech lab, its concrete walls lined with blinking monitors, surgical tools glinting on steel trays, and cabinets stuffed with vials. Andre's lighter flickered, illuminating a glass case with syringes labeled H number G17, the hashtag group's genetic serum, glowing faintly green. Maria snatched a file from a desk, her hands trembling as she scanned it. Subject viability compromised. Gray eye mutation detected. Termination advised. Andre's blood ran cold. This was no divine plan, but a calculated experiment gone wrong. A monitor flickered, showing old footage of the nuns, strapped to tables, their screams muted. Before they could dig deeper, a steel door hissed open, and 3 mercenaries in hazmat suits stormed in, stun guns humming, their visors reflecting the lab's cold light. Andre swung the cleaver, smashing one's visor, glass shattering as the man staggered. Maria hurled a tray of scalpels, blades scattering, and bolted for a side corridor, her shoes slipping on the polished floor. The second mercenary fired, a stun dart grazing Andre's thigh, sending a jolt through his leg. He stumbled, vision blurring, but swung the cleaver again, cracking the man's knee, dropping him with a grunt. Maria's scream echoed. She was pinned in the corridor, a mercenary's gloved hand clamping her arm, a syringe inches from her neck. Andre charged, tackling the man, the syringe skidding across the floor. They grappled, fists pounding, until Andre drove the cleaver's handle into the mercenary's temple, knocking him out. Maria, gasping, grabbed the file and a syringe, stuffing them into her coat. Alarms blared, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Boots thundered above reinforcements. Andre and Maria scrambled to the ladder, but the trapdoor was closing, its hydraulics hissing. Andre jammed the cleaver into the mechanism, metal screeching, barely holding it open. They climbed, muscles burning, and tumbled into the nave as the lab shook, an explosion erupting below, likely a failsafe to erase evidence. The convent trembled, pews toppling, glass windows cracking. They sprinted through falling debris, choking on dust, and burst into the courtyard as flames licked the altar behind them. The black van screeched into view, mercenaries leaping out, rifles raised, their laser sights cutting the dawn. Andre clutched the file and syringe, Maria's hand tight in his. They dove behind a stone fountain, bullets chipping marble, water spraying. A mercenary flanked them, raising a rifle, but Andre threw the cleaver, its blade embedding in the man's vest, staggering him. Maria kicked a loose cobblestone, tripping another, buying seconds. The evidence was in their hands, but the hashtag group's reach was tightening. Andre spotted a rusted gate at the courtyard's edge, leading to the forest. They ran, bullets whizzing past, and dove through the gate, the convent's flames lighting the sky. The truth was theirs, but survival was a battle still raging. Father Andre's lungs burned as he crashed through the underbrush, thorns tearing at his bloodied cassock, Sister Maria stumbling beside him. The forest swallowed the convent's flaming silhouette, but the mercenaries' shouts and the crack of rifle fire echoed too close. The stolen file, syringe, camera tape, and Clara's journal weighed heavy in his torn sleeve evidence of the hashtag group's genetic experiments, a conspiracy that had broken 3 nuns and birthed children with haunting grey eyes. Bullets zipped past, splintering bark, and Maria gasped, her scarred face pale under the dawn's grey light. "They won't stop," she rasped, clutching the syringe. Andre's arm throbbed, the knife wound seeping, but he spotted a ravine ahead, its shadows a slim chance. "Down there," he urged, pulling her toward the drop. They slid down the muddy slope, rocks bruising their knees, and crouched behind a fallen log as boots crunched above. The mercenaries' radios crackled, their voices cold. "Find them. No witnesses." Andre's mind raced. The file mentioned the children, now adults, one living in isolation nearby. If they could find this child, they might unlock the experiment's purpose. Maria whispered, "His name's Luca. He was Clara's son. He's in the old mill." The mill was a mile off, a crumbling relic by the river. They waited, hearts pounding, until the radios faded, then crept along the ravine, mud sucking at their shoes. The forest thinned, revealing the mill's sagging frame, its wheel still against the frozen river. Andre knocked on the warped door, his voice low. "Luca, we know about the hashtag group." The door creaked open, revealing a man in his 30s, tall and gaunt, with grey eyes that seemed to pierce through them. His voice was flat. "You shouldn't have come." Before Andre could respond, a twig snapped outside. Luca yanked them inside, slamming the door, and pointed to a loft ladder. "Up, now." They climbed, straw crunching underfoot, as the mill's windows shattered, mercenaries storming in with flashlights and tasers. Luca moved like a shadow, grabbing a crowbar from a crate. "They've hunted me for years," he muttered, his grey eyes glinting. Andre gripped a rusted pipe from the loft, Maria clutching the evidence tight. The mercenaries kicked over barrels below, their beams slicing the dark. One climbed the ladder, taser raised, but Luca swung the crowbar, cracking the man's wrist, sending him crashing down. The others opened fire, bullets punching through the loft's planks. Andre swung the pipe, smashing a flashlight, plunging the mill into chaos. Maria threw a sack of grain, dust exploding, choking the air. They slid down a chute to the mill's basement, landing hard on damp stone. Luca led them through a maze of gears and pipes, his movements precise, almost unnatural. "The experiments gave me instincts," he said, his voice hollow. They emerged by the river, but the van's headlights cut through the fog, mercenaries closing in. Andre spotted a derelict boat tethered to the bank. They scrambled aboard, Luca cutting the rope with a pocket knife as bullets splashed the water. The current pulled them downstream, the mill shrinking behind. Luca's grey eyes fixed on the syringe in Maria's hand. "They wanted us perfect. Instead, we're flawed stronger, but unstable." He touched his temple, wincing, as if fighting an inner storm. The van's headlights tracked them along the riverbank, a sniper's laser dot dancing on Andre's chest. He shoved Maria and Luca down, the boat rocking, and grabbed a broken oar, swinging it at a mercenary leaping from the bank. The man fell into the icy water screaming. The boat scraped a rock, splintering, and water flooded in. They abandoned it, wading to shore, the forest their only cover. Luca's breathing grew erratic, his eyes flickering with pain. "The mutation, it's killing me," he admitted, but pointed to a dirt road. "There's a safe house. Elena, a journalist. She's been digging into the hashtag group." Andre's hope flickered another ally could turn the tide. The van roared closer, its engine a predator's growl. They sprinted, branches snapping, as the truth in their hands burned brighter than their fear. Father Andre's heart thundered as he shoved through the estate's manicured hedges, thorns snagging his blood-crusted cassock, the weight of the camera tape, Clara's journal, medical file, and HG-17 syringe dragging at his sleeve. Sister Maria ran beside him, her scarred face set with grim resolve, while Luca, his grey eyes flickering with pain, hauled the bound doctor. Stahl, the hashtag group's lead scientist, whose smug defiance fueled their desperation. Elena, the journalist, led the way, her backpack stuffed with hacked data, her flashlight cutting through the pre-dawn fog. The estate's alarms wailed, guards' boots pounding behind, their rifles spitting bullets that shredded leaves. The jeep they'd crashed through the gates was a smoking wreck, and the hashtag group's black van loomed on the road ahead, its headlights a predator's glare. Andre's arm burned from his wounds, but Stahl's words, "You can't fix the mutation," lit a fire in him. They needed a cure for Luca, for the other children, and Stahl was their only lead. Elena pointed to a dense forest beyond the estate, a narrow path twisting into darkness. "We lose them there," she hissed, dodging a bullet that grazed her shoulder, blood blooming on her jacket. They sprinted, Stahl stumbling, his wrists zip-tied, muttering threats until Luca slammed him against a tree, silencing him. The forest closed in, branches clawing, the air thick with pine and frost. Andre tripped on a root, pain shooting through his knee, but Maria yanked him up, her knife flashing as she cut through vines. The van's engine roared closer, crashing through underbrush, its bumper gleaming. Luca's strength surged, a side effect of the HG-17 mutation, as he hurled a fallen branch into the van's windshield, glass shattering, forcing it to swerve. The guards leapt out, 5 of them, armed with batons and stun guns, their tactical vests marked with the hashtag logo. Andre grabbed a jagged rock, smashing it into a guard's helmet, cracking it, while Elena kicked another's knee, stealing his stun gun. Maria slashed at a third, her knife grazing his arm, but the 4th tackled Luca, pinning him. Stahl laughed, blood on his teeth, until Andre drove a fist into his jaw, dropping him. Luca roared, flipping the guard off, his grey eyes wild, but he staggered, nose bleeding, the mutation's toll worsening. They ran deeper, the forest a labyrinth, until they reached a clearing with an abandoned logging camp, rusted saws, overturned carts, and a derelict shed. Elena kicked the shed's door open, shoving Stahl inside, while Andre barricaded it with a cart. The guards circled, radios crackling, their flashlights slicing the fog. Luca's breathing rasped, his hands shaking, but he pointed to a crate of old dynamite, its fuses brittle. "We can slow them," he said, rigging a trap with Elena's lighter. They lured the guards closer, taunting, then lit the fuse, diving behind a log as the explosion rocked the clearing, dirt and shrapnel flying, the guards scattering. The van, undamaged, charged through the smoke, ramming the shed. Andre and Maria dragged Stahl out, his face bruised but defiant. Luca's crowbar smashed a guard's rifle, but a stun dart hit his leg, dropping him to his knees. Elena fired the stolen stun gun, downing another, while Andre tackled the last, wrestling him into the mud, fists pounding until he went limp. They tied the guards, but the van's driver floored it, aiming for Maria. Luca, defying his pain, shoved her aside, taking the hit, his body rolling across the dirt. Andre screamed, dragging Luca to cover, his pulse faint but alive. Stahl smirked, "He's expendable." Maria slapped him, her knife at his throat, demanding, "The cure," Stahl spat. "There's a lab in Bucharest. HG-17's antidote, it's experimental." The forest stirred, more guards approaching. Andre hoisted Luca, his weight crushing, and they fled toward a river, the van's headlights fading. The truth was closer, but Luca's life hung by a thread, and Bucharest was their last hope. Father Andre's muscles screamed as he half-carried Luca, whose grey eyes flickered with fading life, blood trickling from his nose, the HG17 mutation ravaging his body. Sister Maria gripped Dr. Stahl's bound wrists, her knife pressed to his spine, her scarred face etched with fury. Elena, the journalist, led the charge, her flashlight slashing through the riverbank's choking fog, her backpack heavy with hacked data. The camera tape, Clara's journal, medical file, and HG17 syringe jostled in Andre's tattered cassock, fragile proof of the hashtag group's biotech atrocitiesa, conspiracy that had turned nuns into test subjects and birthed children doomed to die. The Bucharest lab Stahl mentioned held an experimental antidote, their only hope to save Luca, but the hashtag group's guards were relentless, their radios buzzing through the trees, boots crunching closer. The river roared beside them, its icy spray stinging their faces, the current a deafening pulse. Luca's weight crushed Andre's wounded shoulder, the bullet graze burning, but Stahl's taunt, "You can't fix the mutation," drove him forward. The van's headlights pierced the fog, its engine a predatory snarl, tires chewing gravel. Elena spotted a rusted fishing boat, tethered to a crumbling dock, its hull scarred but afloat. "Move," she barked, slicing the rope with a pocket knife, her shoulder bleeding from a stray bullet. Andre heaved Luca aboard, his body limp, skin clammy, while Maria shoved Stahl in, the scientist's bruised face twisted with defiance. Bullets splashed the water as guards swarmed the bank, their rifles flashing, muzzles bright in the dawn. Elena yanked the motor's cord, the engine coughing before roaring, and the boat lurched forward, weaving through jagged rocks. A guard fired a flare, its red glow lighting the sky, pinning them in a spotlight. Andre shielded Luca, a bullet grazing the hull, wood splintering, water seeping in. Maria slashed Stahl's arm, blood welling. "Call them off," she roared. Stahl sneered. "They answer to bigger players now." Elena steered toward a river bend, the boat tilting dangerously, waves slapping the sides. The van tracked them along the shore, a sniper's laser dot dancing on Andre's chest. He grabbed a flare gun from a rusty crate, firing it at the van, the projectile exploding in a fireball, forcing the driver to swerve into a ditch. The boat scraped a sandbar, nearly capsizing, wood groaning, but they cleared the bend, the guards' shouts swallowed by the river's roar. Bucharest's skyline emerged, its neon lights a faint beacon through the mist. They ditched the boat at a derelict pier, dragging Stahl through alleys thick with diesel fumes and rotting trash. Luca's breathing was a shallow rasp, his grey eyes unfocused. Elena's contact, Dr. Irina Popa, a whistleblower scientist, waited at a safe-houser grimy apartment above a butcher shop, its air heavy with blood and bleach. Irina's face paled at Luca's state, but hardened at the sight of Stahl. "You monster," she spat, scanning the medical file. HG17's antidote exists, but its unstable 50% chance of killing him. Stahl smirked, blood on his teeth. "Progress demands sacrifice." Maria's knife twitched, but Irina stopped her. "We need him for the conference." Irina's laptop was set to stream to a major science summit in Bucharest, where she'd expose the hashtag group's crimes. Andre and Elena prepared to present the tape and file, but the safe-house door shuddered, a battering ram splintering wood. 8 guards stormed in, their tactical vests flashing the hashtag logo, batons swinging, tasers crackling. Andre hurled a chair, smashing a guard's jaw, bone-crunching, while Luca, defying his collapse, tackled another, his mutation-fueled strength flickering as he slammed the man into a wall. Maria threw a lamp, glass exploding, and Elena fired a stolen taser, its prongs dropping a guard in convulsions. Irina grabbed the evidence, sprinting for a fire escape, but a guard seized her, wrenching the syringe away. Andre dove, tackling the man, fists pounding until the syringe rolled free under a table. Stahl slipped his zip ties, grabbing a fallen baton, and swung at Maria, who ducked, her knife slashing his thigh, blood spraying. The room was a battlefield, broken furniture, blood pooling, shouts drowning in chaos. Luca's crowbar cracked a guard's shoulder, but he staggered, clutching his head, the mutation's neural decay surging. Andre scrambled for the syringe, shoving it into Irina's hands. They fought to the fire escape, dragging Luca, whose legs buckled. Irina uploaded the tape to the conference feed, the screen flickering with the nun's agony. Stahl's face unmistakable. Gasps echoed from the broadcast. Scientists' voices rising in outrage. Guards lunged, batons raised, but Andre kicked a table, blocking their path, and they slid down the ladder, hitting the alley hard. The van screeched around a corner, more guards spilling out, rifles raised. Irina's phone crackled, the conference feed alive with demands for justice. Stahl, limping behind, shouted, "You've started a war you can't win." Andre's fist crashed into his jaw, silencing him, but the hashtag group's shadow loomed larger, their empire shaken but unbroken. The truth was public, but Luca's life hung by a thread, and the fight was far from over. Father Andre's boots slammed against the slick Bucharest alley, his tattered cassock flapping, soaked with sweat and blood from wounds that burned with every step. Luca's limp form weighed heavy in his arms, the HG17 mutation's neural decay pushing the young man's grey eyes to the edge of oblivion, his breathing a faint, ragged whisper. Sister Maria dragged Doctor. Victor Stoll, the hashtag group's lead scientist, her knife pressed to his throat, her scarred face a mask of fury and resolve, the burns from her past a silent vow to end this nightmare. Elena, the journalist, clutched her laptop, its screen glowing with the live feed of a science summit, now erupting with outrage over the hashtag group's exposed crimes experiments that turned nuns into test subjects and birthed children doomed to die. The camera tape, Clara's journal, medical file, and HG17 syringe jostled in Andre's sleeve, their weight a reminder of the lives shattered and the justice still out of reach. Dr. Irina Popa, the whistleblower scientist, led them toward a hidden clinic, her promise of an antidote the only hope to save Luca and the other children. The hashtag group's black van screeched around a corner, its headlights blinding, guards spilling out with rifles raised, their tactical vests flashing the sinister hashtag logo. Bullets chipped the brick walls, ricocheting with sharp pings, and Andre dove behind a rusted dumpster, Luca's body dragging him down, his wounded shoulder screaming. Maria slashed a guard's arm, blood spraying across the pavement, while Elena fired a stolen taser, its prongs sinking into another guard's chest, dropping him in convulsions. Stahl stumbled, his bruised face twisting as he shouted, "You're all dead!" But Maria's fist crashed into his jaw, silencing him with a crack. Irina kicked open a sewer grate, its metal groaning, and waved them down. "Move!" she barked, her voice steady despite the chaos. They descended into the tunnel, the stench of rot and stagnant water choking their lungs, the damp walls slick under their scrambling hands. Luca's weight nearly buckled Andre's knees, his pulse a faint flutter, but the thought of the antidote kept him moving. Guards' boots echoed above, their flashlights stabbing through the grate, shouts bouncing off the concrete. The tunnel twisted, water sloshing at their ankles, rats scurrying in the dark. A guard fired blindly into the sewer, bullets sparking off the walls, and Andre shielded Luca, a ricochet grazing his calf, blood soaking his boot. Maria shoved Stahl forward, her knife drawing a thin line of blood on his neck. "Faster!" she hissed, her eyes blazing. They emerged into Irina's clinic, a repurposed basement beneath a condemned warehouse, its sterile lights harsh against the sewer's filth. Medical equipment hummed, monitors blinking with data, a stark contrast to the chaos above. Irina laid Luca on a gurney, her hands swift as she prepared the Antidotia Cloudy vial labeled HG17B, its contents shimmering faintly. "It's untested," she warned, her brow furrowed. 50% chance it kills him." Andre's heart clenched, but he nodded, gripping Luca's hand, its coldness a knife to his soul. Maria stood vigil, her scars a mirror to Luca's pain, while Elena barricaded the door with a steel cabinet, her laptop streaming the conference feed, scientists' voices now calling for arrests. Stahl laughed, his voice dripping venom. "It'll burn him out." Irina injected Luca, the needle piercing his vein, and his body arched, grey eyes snapping open, a raw scream tearing from his throat. Andre pinned his shoulders, whispering prayers not to God but to science, as Irina monitored his vitals, the screen beeping wildly. Luca's convulsions shook the gurney, his skin clammy, veins bulging. The door shuddered, wood splintering under a battering ram, guards shouting in Romanian. Elena shoved a table against the cabinet, but it slid, the door cracking. Maria tied Stahl to a chair, her knife carving a shallow cut across his cheek, blood welling. "Talk," she growled. Stahl, sweating, choked out, "The antidote needs a stabilizer formula 12 in my lab safe." Irina's eyes lit up. She had a sample, a vial of clear liquid in a locked case. She smashed the glass, mixing it with the antidote, and re-injected Luca, her hands trembling but precise. His convulsions slowed, his breathing steadying, grey eyes clearing for the first time. The door exploded inward, 6 guards storming in, batons swinging, tasers crackling. Andre grabbed a scalpel from a tray, slashing a guard's thigh, blood pooling on the tiles, while Elena hurled a monitor, its screen shattering, sparks flying. Maria tackled another, her knife flashing, carving a gash across his arm. Irina fired a tranquilizer dart, dropping a guard mid-stride, his body crumpling. Luca stirred, his mutation's strength returning, tempered now, and seized a fallen baton, cracking it across a guard's skull, the sound sickening. They fought in a blur, blood and sweat mixing, the clinic's sterile air thick with violence. A guard grabbed Irina, wrenching her arm, but Luca snapped his wrist, freeing her. Andre dove for a dropped taser, firing it into another guard's chest, his body jerking. The last guard lunged at Maria, but she sidestepped, driving her knife into his shoulder, pinning him to the wall. They dragged Stahl, still bound, and sprinted for the clinic's garage, where a battered ambulance waited. Elena floored the pedal, crashing through a checkpoint, guards diving aside, bullets pinging off the chassis. The conference feed buzzed on Irina's phone. Authorities were raiding #group facilities across Europe, CEOs and politicians, named in Elena's leaked files, facing arrest. Luca's recovery was a miracle of science. His neural decay halted, but the other children scattered. Hidden needed the antidote. Andre swore to find them, using Stahl's recorded confession, now uploaded to global networks. They reached a safe house, a rural church with weathered pews and a warm hearth, its simplicity a balm after bloodshed. Irina treated Luca, refining the antidote's formula, sharing it via secure channels with scientists worldwide. Maria, her scars no longer a mark of shame, worked with local volunteers to rebuild the convent as a sanctuary for the #group's victims, her faith reborn in human resilience. Andre faced the press, the tape and journal published in every major outlet, sparking trials that dismantled the #group's empire, its leaders stripped of power. Stahl, his smirk erased, faced life in a cell, his legacy a cautionary tale. Luca stood with Maria, his grey eyes now a symbol of survival, not suffering, as he helped identify the other children, guiding them to treatment. The church's bells tolled, their chime cutting through the dawn, a promise of healing not through divine intervention but through the relentless pursuit of truth and the triumph of science over greed. From a desperate chase to exposing a biotech conspiracy, this tale of courage and redemption gripped us all. Thanks for listening. Like, share and subscribe to our channel. Turn on notifications for our latest heart-stopping stories. Join us for the next adventure.